Kevin, you've got a big squad. Are you planning to make a few changes for the Spartans game?
Yeah, Alan, I think big change from this year is obviously the depth and numbers we've got this year is fantastic. The quality too that we've got to our disposal is also a very good problem to have for Malky and the rest of the staff. So, Malky spoke about it from the start of the season, Alan, that particularly this period, there was a lot of games in a short space of time. We're going to have to utilise the full squad, so I would fully expect a few changes for tomorrow's game.
And is Yanni yet a position to come into the team?
Yeah, Yanni felt her hamstring a little bit in the warm-up, obviously at the Hearts game, so she's been assessed just now, so the medical team will have a little look at her. Tomorrow might be a little bit too soon for her now, obviously don't want to rush that too quickly, so it's nothing serious that she's done, which is good. But we'll just have to be careful when we also introduce her. But certainly in training, since she's come in, she's been fantastic and she'll be a great addition to the squad as well.
Okay, and Sam Kerr, is she still unavailable?
Yes, Sam will still be unavailable. Again, probably looks a little bit worse when you see her in the boot and crutches. But it's not, again, an issue that's too serious. But she's going to need a few more weeks, I think, before she can be back in.
Yeah. Right, okay. And just finally for me, Kevin, what kind of challenge are you expecting from Spartans? I think it was 1-0 and 2 5-0s when you played them last season.
Yeah, well, you know, Alan, Spartans are obviously one of those teams that are very consistent in the league year on year. Debbie will probably be a little bit disappointed in the result of the weekend. You know, we've managed to watch that game back and they obviously created some really good chances in that game. So, you know, Spartans are always very well organised, they're very well disciplined. I'm sure that they've had a look at us against Hearts as well and they'll formulate a game plan to come in and try to frustrate us and try to cause us a few issues. So, yeah, I think with Spartans you always get difficult games. The last 5-0 game that you mentioned, we got goals early, which I think settled the team down. I think for me and for the staff, it's about being patient. You know, whether it's the goal comes in the first minute or the last minute, we just have to keep going and break Spartans down, however long that takes. But obviously that's the objective come tomorrow night's game.
You talked to Malky previously. The season's been a little bit stop-start in terms of, fallow weekends, friendlies, the cup. You got three goals away at Hearts. What was particularly pleasing to you with regards to the performance through there?
Yeah, Mark, I think the Hearts game, first of all, Hearts are very well organised and we have to give Hearts credit for that. You know, they came in with a real game plan. They wanted to make sure that the spaces to play were down the sides and they came in to frustrate us. But I think on reflection, looking at the game back and looking at the stats, we dominated possession, we created numerous chances, Hearts never had a shot at goal, so we dominated the game really from start to finish. The pleasing thing for me and also the rest of the staff was that we kept at it. We spoke to them at half time. There was a bit of frustration at half time that we maybe hadn't scored as many goals as we have hoped in the first half. But the second half, we continue to play the brand of football they want to play. The variety of the goals I thought were great. When you look at the type of goals that we scored, I think that was a real positive. And also where the goals came from as well. We're not relying on just a striker and attacking players. You saw that 2 defenders got on the score sheet on Sunday as well. And I think that's going to be key for us as well, that we can't rely on 1 or 2 players to chip in with goals. It's got to be a squad thing, and I felt on Sunday obviously that was on show and that was particularly pleasing too.
I noticed that Jane Ross obviously got a great hat-trick the previous game, but she was subbed late on. Was that any kind of injury type issues, or was that just a tactical thing to give somebody a wee bit of time at the end of the game?
Yeah, no, Jane's absolutely fine. Jane's obviously an important player for us, as you've alluded to. Our goals the previous week were obviously important, and our link-up play was excellent on Sunday. Just with Wednesday in mind, with 5-10 minutes to go, it was an opportunity to get her off. The game had been won at that point, and obviously it allowed us to get young Jodie McCleary some minutes as well and get more experience in the first team, so that was the reason for the change.
In terms of the period you're into now, you've got 5 games in 15 days.
Yeah.
What's the kind of tactical oversight on that? Are you looking to use your squad over those games, or do you operate on, you see who's fit, who gets to the starting line, and then choosing a game-by-game basis?
Yeah, it's probably all of that, to be honest with you, Mark. I think, as Alan's question as well, the squad that we've got this year is a great squad. We've got a few injuries just now, but we can still go and put out a very competitive starting team, and also our bench is very strong, and that, for me, is such a pleasing thing. Over the next couple of weeks, as you mentioned, there's a lot of games, there'll be a lot of minutes. It's important that we utilise the full squad. You know, Malky spoke about it at length already, that, you know, it's a team that also win you games, but it's a squad that will win you trophies and championships. So that's the aim. We've got to utilise the full squad as much as we can. You saw on Sunday the changes that we make. It doesn't weaken the team any. You know, every player can slot in seamlessly to positions. Like for like changes or even tactical tweaks that we want to make. So we're very fortunate at the moment with the squad and the quality of depth that we've got. We can utilise everyone, and that is the aim. Having said that, players have to train at a good level. They have to show up with real intent, and if they do that, then they've got their chance of obviously playing or playing their part. If they don't, then they might find themselves out for a number of weeks in the team, and that's the standards that we've set. The players know that, and I've got to be honest, the new players coming in, I felt have raised the bar again, and the players that were here last season have responded to that really well, and that bodes well for us because it makes for a really competitive squad moving forward into obviously the coming games.
The games, you haven't really been able to develop a crowd so far this season because of obviously COVID and various restrictions, but tickets are available for Wednesday's game, also available I believe in Rangers TV. Is that something you like to see develop?
Yeah, of course. I said when I first came in that it was a big drive, just a personal drive of mine, to make sure that we establish ourselves with a real good following and support. Obviously Rangers is a huge football club with a massive following, and I know there's a lot of people out there that support Rangers irrespective of gender. They want their teams to do well, whether that be men or the women's team. So for me, it's vital that we start to build a crowd. We've saw that through our pre-season games here and some of the cup games that we had a decent crowd. There was a decent, you know, support at Hearts for us and away support, which was great. But the real aim for us is to build on that. We want to make sure that we sell out venues that we go to, but we're only going to do that by playing a brand of football that's first of all that we're winning, but second of all that's attractive, and we understand that. You know, for a lot of people, women's football's still new. Myself and Alan have been here for a long time, so we understand the journey that it's going through. But I think it's vital for us now that the girls can't just rest on their laurels that it's Rangers and people will come and support you because of that. There's an element of that. But we've got to make sure that we put on a show every single game, that fans come out, so that fans want to come back week in and week out, and not just at the home games, which is vital, Mark, like you mentioned, but also for the away games as well. The players and all the staff get a buzz from that, particularly over the COVID times when we weren't allowed any fans in. So for us as a club, it's a real priority that we kind of grow that fan base and grow numbers week on week.
I think one of the aspects of women's football was that, you know, when you didn't have Rangers and Celtic, it could appear to be a more organic way to grow the game. But obviously the reality is that, you know, probably a majority of people in the country support both of those two teams. I noted that quite a number of the girls were very enthusiastic about the game they had at Parkhead last year. Even though there was no crowd in, it was just being in a stadium of that scale seemed to be a real buzz for them.
Yeah.
I noticed that Hibs and Hearts are close to 6,000 for their game. Are you thinking that perhaps later in the season there may be opportunities for putting on a Rangers Celtic game at one of those, a bigger venue?
Yeah, listen, Mark, I think the club are always looking at those things as well, how we grow the game, how to, you know, grow the fan base, like we mentioned before. And with Hibs and Hearts game attracting a lot of interest, I think that's fantastic to see. Hopefully it'll be a record crowd that go to that game. And like you've rightly said, Celtic and Rangers are such massive institutions that if there was a women's game to get held at either ground, it's going to attract huge support, we would hope, which in turn would raise the profile. But I think it's more important for me that you mentioned about being organic. It's more important that we don't just have these one-off events that attract big crowds. It's how do we get that sustainable over a season, over 2 seasons. We've even seen it down south where, you know, you hold these games and it's great that you get 30,000-40,000 in a stadium, but the following week they're getting 1,000. So how do we as a club, how do we market that? How do we improve on the product on the pitch to get some of these fans that might come to these games on a more regular basis? So for sure it'd be a great occasion and one that we would all relish, and I'm sure the club would look at that as the season progresses. But for us and for me personally, it's how do we grow that moving forward so that we can get 1,000 at each game or 2,000 at each game, as opposed to just these one-off events that can attract larger numbers.